Today, we're going to talk about how to leverage marketing automation to triple your conversions. And this is a great one. There's a lot of opportunity here for people to get better results. And so I will dive right in. If you have any questions throughout the presentation, do not hesitate to ask. Otherwise, always feel free to reply to the replay email or just send us a message. We're happy to talk. So let's talk about marketing automation. And this is really a part of our accelerated growth model, which is really kind of three phases of how you handle this. The first is to drive leads. The second is to maximize conversion. And the third is to optimize results. And this automation is really a part of maximizing conversion. And I try to do a webinar every month talking about different aspects of how to do these things. And today we're going to focus on the automation. And this is all part of our digital dominance method. Things are getting increasingly competitive online. You really can't leave any of it to chance or leave any of it out. We talk to a lot of people who say, well, I've never had to do this before. And we've lived on referral business for decades. And that's all true. And that's wonderful. But as the population continues, as the business owners and the decision makers change and get younger, they're going to shop online, and you have to address this stuff or it's going to get you. And so what we'll hear is, well, we've always lived online. We've always lived on our referrals, but our business is slowing down. Well, there's a reason for that. And the reason is that the people who would send you referrals, maybe it's in different hands now, and now someone else is in charge and is shopping. And if they're not finding you online, you're out of the game. And so you must do this. It's just the way people shop now, and if you don't do it, your competitors will. And so, got to do it. So, who am I and why should listen to me? We're members of the National Asphalt Paving Association. I've written online marketing for paving companies you can find on Amazon, and I own Paving Marketers. We work with dozens of paving companies, so we know the industry very well. And I've been doing this a long time. I've owned an agency since 2011. We've worked on thousands of projects across dozens and dozens of industries over time, all around the world, across 6 continents. We've seen it all, done a lot. We know what we're doing. And like I said, we work with dozens of paving companies. So let's just jump right in. So what are the biggest challenges when it comes to marketing? And, what we hear time and time again from people is, we just don't get enough leads. And, or it's low lead quality. So you are getting leads, but not really satisfied with the quality of them. Or even the lead cost is too high. Maybe you're seeing a low return on investment on those leads. And there may be legitimate reasons for all of those things. You may actually not have enough leads. There's ways you can address that. The lead quality may be low. If your standards are appropriate, then there's ways of addressing that too. And too high lead costs. And there's ways of addressing it also. I mean, you can tackle any of these things as long as your expectations are reasonable. One of the things can be just a lack of clear tracking. And we're not going to get into that too much today, but it is an important thing to make, and we've covered this elsewhere. It's important that you're tracking where your leads are coming from, so you actually know, and you know what's profitable, you know what's working, you know what's not, so you can actually attribute ROI. And, that's a difficult problem all on its own. Maybe we'll do a webinar dedicated to tracking because there's so many options to do that kind of stuff. But what I'm going to present to you today, and what I see all over the place, not just in paving, but in many other industries as well, is your lead flow really the problem? Or is it that you're not converting the leads you do get? And I'm going to suggest that for most paving companies, that this is the case. So here's the problem. And these numbers aren't specific to paving. I'd say these are from studies. These are more broad across all industries, but I think they're more or less tracking with what we see when we bring people in. 50 to 60% of inbound leads are, leave considering you without being converted, at least. And 90% of web forms fail to convert. In other words, they don't get followed up on, they don't get called, whatever. They don't become leads. And here's why that happens. So if a lead is not followed up within about 15 minutes, it tends to go cold. And the reason is, generally they're shopping. And so they're calling multiple people. And if you're not non-responsive, then you're going to miss out. So that's the pre-sales part of it. And then post-sales, the average customer, especially on bigger projects, they're generally not going to sign right away. Sometimes they do. I mean, this, but often the average customer must be followed up with 5 to 7 times before booking or before accepting the estimate or whatever you call it. And the other piece of it, which is less obvious perhaps, is that today's consumer does prefer to interact via text message versus phone call or email. And that is not me. I can't stand that. Although I have to say, I guess it's growing on me because it's becoming so pervasive. I just had my car in the shop, and it was handy to get text messages. But more or less, texting with businesses is weird to me, but I'm not a millennial or a Zoomer. So to do with that what you will. But those folks do tend to interact that way. And so the solution to this is to use marketing automation to solve these problems, at least to the extent that you can. And we'll talk about that. And, it will improve the customer experience. And I'll give you examples. So we just moved into a new house a couple of years ago in a new area. And I've had, I got to find all new service providers, right? I need, new plumbers, new HVAC people, pest control, all those things, right? And I tend to be a form guy. So, I don't want to call you. I don't want to deal with all that. I've got 10 million things going on. Just going to send a quick form, and then you can email me and I can talk to you or not. And it blows my mind the number of companies that I submitted forms to that never ever got back to me. That could barely tell if the form went through. I'm sure it did, but they never got back to me. And I submitted multiple forms. And this is multiple industries, all generally home services. I mean, equipment servicing too. But it's crazy. It blows my mind. And, it's very bad. And the solution to this is very easy. I mean, it'd be easy to set up. It kind of is. But if you're not technically inclined, it can be challenging. But once you have it in place, it's a no-brainer. And basically what you do is you use marketing automation that when someone fills out a web form, you hit them within almost right away with an email and text message. Bam, that's it. And then when you send an estimate, automate some follow-ups, or at least reminders to yourself to follow up with them if you can't necessarily automate the follow-up. But you can. There's ways of doing all these things. And that's the solution to this. And if you look at it, here's the math. And this is just an example. These numbers aren't accurate for paving. Your average, estimate is higher than this, but it'll give you a sense of what we're talking about here. If you get 100 leads and your conversion rate on those leads is 30%, so 30 leads turn into jobs booked, right? And that's without any follow-up. And if your average ticket were $650, which obviously yours is much higher, unless you focus on maintenance or things like that. But that 30 jobs at that average ticket is going to turn into just under $20,000. Now, say you put this marketing automation in place and you massively improve your conversion rate, which you really can do. Say your conversion rate goes up to 70%. Now you've got 70 jobs booked, same number of leads, but now you're booking more than twice the revenue. So it's a massive game changer. You spend almost no more money to do this. So you can tell, I think, what a huge difference this can make. And it really just makes every lead more valuable to you. And it lowers your effective cost per sale, right? And so what is your key takeaway so far? It should be that this is an important problem for you to solve. Okay. And it really is. And it's one of those things where once you do it, you'll kick yourself you didn't do it sooner because it just makes such a huge difference. And so let's talk about 3 ways that you can do this, right? We've already touched on these kind of, but we'll talk about it a little bit more. So the first one is engage your customers the way they want to engage you. And that's that sounds obvious, but it isn't. And again, oh wait, that's moved the wrong side. This is the slide I want. Talking about text messaging specifically, statistics say, or studies, I don't have the studies, my team does this, but 90%, 98% of all the text messages are opened, and 95% of them are responded to quickly. And US consumers are 5 times more likely to send and receive text messages and phone calls. I believe that. So people just use their, text messages are easy, they're fast, and people use them. And if you let them communicate with you that way, they're more likely to do business with you, certainly more likely to at least be in the game. Okay, so think about how you can engage text messages. And now, like I said, I hate text messaging businesses. I have a sales team, but even then, they're not using their personal phones. We have software that does this for us using phone numbers. So it's not like you got to use your personal phone number necessarily. There's ways to do this without doing that. Second thing is follow up quickly. And we talked about this a little bit about how leads that aren't followed up with go cold within 15 minutes. That's true. And even more so, a follow-up call within 5 minutes is 21 times more effective than calling after 30 minutes. And again, this is because they're shopping and they're reaching out probably to multiple people at once, one after the other. And after 5 minutes, the odds of qualifying a lead drop by 80%. And the reason for that, most likely, is because 50% of leads go with a vendor that responds first. And so if you think about this, if you're sending out, 3 requests to, hey, I want to talk to you about a new HVAC company, and one company gets back to you right away, and your phone rings 5 minutes later before the other 2 have even responded to you, who are you going to talk to? I mean, chances are you're just going to work with a company that got back to you, right? Because they got back to you. A lot of times it's no more complicated than that. And, that people don't like to hear that, especially if, you do a good job and you do high quality, but customers are fickle and they want action now. We live in an Amazon-ified world, and they want answers and they want them now. And so you got to find a way to do that. Okay. And so the third thing you can do to increase conversion, which really touches on these first couple ones, is leverage automation. Okay. So instead of you having to do all this manually, which you can't always do, you're on a job or you're on a job site at the very least, you're not always accessible by phone. So what do? And the ideal outcome is every lead gets an email and a text within 30 seconds of filling out your form, and a call from someone at your company within 5 minutes. Pre-sales. Then you give the estimate, and every estimate lead is followed up with at least 7 times via email, SMS, and phone until they book the job or tell you they're not interested. So these are the goals that you want to strive for. And how do you do it? Well, you set up complicated things like this. And this looks like a crazy mess, but we're going to unpack it bit by bit, and you'll see it's not that bad. Okay? But before we do that, I want you to think to yourself, if you followed up with all your leads in this way, would you convert more of them? The answer is, of course you would. I mean, I don't think that's disputable. And just another bit of math here, say, this is over a quarter or something, 3 months, you get 439 leads. And again, imagine your average ticket. It's not usually $950, usually a couple grand. But maybe this could be your profit margins, on average profit margins. Then at a 40% conversion rate on these 439 leads, you're going to book or net, 166,000. But if you get automation in place and can, improve your conversion by 50% or a little bit more, up to 65%, you go up to 270,000. That's increasing your revenue or net profit, depending how you want to calculate and slice this, by $104,000. And the cost for doing this for these tools is very small. And so this is money on the table. You're not paying any more for the leads. You're not paying to do all this extra service. You're just being more effective and efficient with what you have. and you're selling more jobs and making more money. It really is that powerful. It sounds simple and sounds stupid, but it absolutely works. There's no doubt about it. We do this. I've seen it for myself. So how do you implement this in your business? Okay, we're going to break down that chart step by step here. And the first thing is you got to have a website or landing page, right, with a form. Okay, and what I would also say is make sure you have a thank you page, because I can't tell you how many times I've submitted a form and you get this little like text thing like, hey, we've received your response. That's confusing. People don't see it. This is pretty straightforward stuff. Just redirect to a thank you page. They know they know it worked, and you can give them call that. You can give them, hey, here's what's going to happen next, right? You can let them know what to expect. So they're not wondering, was that received? Did I do this right? They are taken to a new page and they're told what's going to happen next. That's a good thing to do. Okay, so you send your Google Ads traffic, you send your SEO traffic to this scenario. Great, you got a lead. Okay, and this is easy to do. You have this stuff on your website anyway, right? You got a form. Go ahead, fill out the form. Everybody has forms, right? So when the form gets filled out, what happens next? Okay, so this is the customer, right? What happens to the customer? Well, they get a text message, they get an email. Hey, thanks for reaching out, blah, 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 right? Very simple. You can automate this with software. It's no problem. You can even, they respond, you can adjust the next response based on what they say. So you can ask them a yes or no question. Hey, do you want us to do X, Y, or X, X, Y, or Z? Just say yes or no. And then if they say yes, they get this response. If they say no, they get this response. And that's the same for email and same for the email, right? So you can sell this stuff up to immediately engage them in conversation, and this is all automated. So you've done nothing. This is all happening automatically by your software. Okay. And then the next step might be then to send them to a calendar. And that's what our process is. So if you go to our website /apply now and fill out the form, it's going to take you to a calendar, right? And then you pick a spot on the calendar for your call. And after that, it takes you to a thank you page, right? That's how we're set up. That's what this is. And so for you, maybe they book a time to talk about their estimate, right? Or talk about their project, whatever. But give them a chance to do that. And then you can customize your automation sequences around that. Ours certainly are, based on the actions you take. If you don't if you don't actually schedule on the calendar, I've got a sequence that's going to chase and be like, hey, you filled out the form, but didn't schedule a call. Why not? Let's go. Or then you fill out the calendar, and then there's another form which collects more information, so we can do a better job of giving you useful information on that call. And so if you don't fill out that form, I got another automation that's like, hey, you got to fill out this form. We want to know who you think your competitors are, so when we talk to you about what's going on in your market, you can understand what's going on with your competitors, right? Not just people that we think might be your competitors based on what we're seeing. Tell us who you want to learn about, and we'll put them in your presentation, right? And then, on top of all of that, there's just a reminder sequence like, hey, you booked this call, your call's coming up. I'm looking forward to talking to you. If you need to reschedule, here's the thing. And so we have all those things to maximize the number of people who actually show up on the calls and get the most possible value out of those calls. And all of that is automated. It's all automated. And some people complain, they're like, oh, you don't send me so many messages, cancel my call. Fine. And, if you don't like being marketed to and you don't like marketing, we're not going to be a good fit for you. Go ahead, cancel your call. Good luck. And I don't mean that in a negative way. It's just, some people don't like that. That's fine. But we also live in reality where this is how things work now. And if you're not willing to do these things because they work and they can be done well, and you don't have to be so sensitive about getting messages, because your customers appreciate it. And you've got to do this stuff. It just works. It absolutely does. Okay. So you get scheduled, and now here's the flip side of this. So going back to our example here, where a prospective customer lead lands on your website, fills out your form. Now they get communicated with. A separate sequence happens where someone on your team is notified. Now maybe that's you, maybe that's your office person, maybe it's your estimator, whoever it is. It's just like, hey, lead has submitted a form. Here's some information. Give them a call, right? And depending on the software you use, there can be a push notification there being like, hey, new lead, take action, right? And so now what has happened? This lead who has submitted a form on your site has received a text message and an email within 30 seconds. And, ideally, now a phone call within 5 minutes. And this has all been automated except for the actual dialing of the phone. And automatically, every time a lead comes in, bam, you're on them. That's it. So putting this all together, this is that picture that we showed before, right? Here's the website with the form. Here is the customer part of the sequence with the calendar scheduling and stuff. Here is the internal company part of the sequence. And that's it. That's marketing automation. And you want to send all your traffic to it. And you can even do things. I mean, I know it's Angie now, but there's even ways potentially to, like, say, Angie sends you an email, hey, you got a new lead. Well, you can, in some way, and this gets a little complicated, but you can set up an automation for when you receive a lead from Angie or others for you to call them, or whatever kind of automation you can set up with the information that you're given. So this is really, really powerful stuff. And just a reminder, if you don't follow them up within 15 minutes, they're going to go cold. Calling within 5 minutes is way more effective than calling them after half an hour. Half the leads go to the vendor who replies first, and vast majority of text messages are read and responded to. So I want you to think to yourself, if you do this, will it make you more money? I don't see how it can't. Will it help you convert more of your leads and grow your business? Absolutely. There's no doubt about it. There's no doubt about it. And remember, it makes a huge, little changes in your conversion rate based on automations flows directly to the bottom line, directly to profitability, because you're not paying any more for more leads. You're just more effective at converting the ones you get. This is really, really important. And so a lot of times, going back to how we started, you don't have a lead problem, you have a conversion problem, and it's relatively easily solved. And there's lots and lots of software that does this. We use our own, which is called Revenue Commander. It lets you automate your processes, instantly reply to leads, instantly send notifications to your team, follow up with leads that went cold, and lots more. And everything that we do is built on this. So if you're on this webinar, that sequence came through Revenue Commander. If you schedule a call with our team, the sequencing that happens goes through Revenue Commander. If you're talking to our sales team, that via email or via text, that's all flowing through Revenue Commander. All of it. We run all of our front end processes through the software, and it works amazing for us, and it can do that for you too. And it replaces a ton of different software. I mean, email marketing, you can have your website in there, like our landing pages are built in there. And a lot of times our CRMs, so our customer management stuff is in there. Tracking and analytics, phone call tracking, all these things. There's tons of stuff. It's fantastic software. And you can, we do sell access to it. We're building and improving custom, what are called snapshots for paving companies. We're building ever increasing functionality designed just for you. And it's just $97 a month. I mean, any one tool, email tool, any of these things tend to be that expensive. You get all of it for $100 a month, plus a one-time setup fee. So if you don't have another tool, I mean, like I said, there's tons out there. This is what we use. It's a great one. And we've opened it up for our own customers to use. And if you're our customer, we're setting it up for you. So if you need help, drop a let's talk in the comments, or just reply to the replay when it comes out, probably tomorrow. But you can schedule a call to talk with us. And if you want to see marketing automation in action, go ahead, go to our website, pavingmarketers.com/apply-now, and schedule a call. Watch what happens. You will get marketing automation too. And it's extremely effective. We've seen it in our own numbers, and we've seen it with our customers, and it's really, really powerful. So however you do it, make sure you start doing this stuff. You will notice a great impact on your business, and I can't recommend it highly enough. And so if you don't want to go through all the marketing automation stuff, you can just give us a call, 262-295-2995. And Jason, if he's free, we'll pick up the phone. and we'd love to talk to you about it. So that is it. Hope this was a valuable use of your time today. Go and get some marketing automation set up in your business, and we'll connect again next month.